F1 heads back to the desert for another desert duel, but this time in Qatar. Hello and welcome to the 5 Red Lights. My name is Aaron, and let's have a look ahead to the Qatar Grand Prix.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go!
So it is the first ever Qatar Grand Prix, a track at the Losail International Circuit, which primarily has been built for hosting MotoGP races. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the transition from bike to car serves the racing, and interesting to see how the cars perform on that track given the different requirements for circuit construction and corner design. As you can see there, there is a lovely lit up shot of the Losail International Circuit. It will be a twilight race, and not only that, it's a fascinating championship duel between Mercedes and Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. If you didn't know, then Lewis Hamilton won the Brazilian Grand Prix, having started last in the sprint race. And if you didn't know, where have you been? If you want to catch my opinion on that, go back through the archives. I'll leave a link down below in the description to my race recap, and also to my analysis of the Turn 4 incident that was oh so controversial. At the moment, I haven't heard any news about the appeal that Mercedes are lodging, which I think is being heard today. So I'm sure we'll get something come out this evening about how that has gone. But let's go to the on-track stuff, and how is this weekend going to look? It's a brand new track, so this is going to have it's going to have some surprises if I can get my words out. As I said, it's primarily a motorbike track, so let's see how these cars handle it. It's going to be super high speed, especially the triple right-hander towards the end of the lap before they have a fast left approaching the final corner. There will be overtaking opportunities down into turn 1, but the trick will be staying close enough through that high-speed triple right to then gain an advantage even with the DRS. Now, you could say that Red Bull will be favoured by the fact that it's got those twisty sections in the corners, and they've got a really good high downforce package and a more agile car as well. We need to remember that the Mercedes and Red Bull have different wheelbase designs. So Mercedes going for the low rake, longer wheelbase platform, whereas Red Bull have a high rake system which benefits from a shorter wheelbase. So that makes the car a little bit more agile. And in the high speed, it gives them lots of downforce as well. So they should be really strong in that back section with the twisty corners there. But this is the big but. Mercedes have prodigious straight line speed and fresher power units. Now, they might be Mercedes. The key for them will be to not lose too much time through those fast flowing sections out the back. And I think their long wheelbase design might help them in that fact, because it will allow the car to be more gentle in the way it transitions through the corner. Maybe not as fast, but as I'll speak about in a moment, how it uses its tyres might be very important. Now, the long straight will certainly allow Mercedes, with their fresher power units and their squatting suspension and their super drag efficient rear wing, to make significant inroads into any advantage that Red Bull have, and perhaps it'll be a significant advantage enough for them to be perhaps even the fastest car around the circuit. Now, we also don't know too much about the track surface itself. We can garner a little bit from the way it looks from MotoGP races. I don't think MotoGP have been there since the beginning of the year, so who knows. Is it going to be a smooth surface? And that might allow Mercedes to exploit this clever damper system that they've got. And obviously in Qatar they had to sort of taper off what they were doing with that, because of the bumpiness of the circuit. They were going to be bottoming out, and it might have given them unnecessary wear on the under tray, which would have caused problems maybe for legality and just for overall performance. You don't want to be bottoming out too much. So if it's a smooth track surface, then you might see at the higher speeds that car really squatting low and providing, even on the shorter straights, a drag benefit. So it's going to be really interesting to see just how much the Mercedes are making up on the straights versus Red Bull through the corners. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. And something that was really key in the race in Brazil was tyre usage. And Red Bull struggled with the fronts, they were a little bit front limited, and tyre usage is again going to be front and centre in the action come Sunday evening. Okay, it's a night race, but a little bit of dew or a little bit of cooler weather, you might get some graining, you might get, who knows, and just the sheer nature of these corners, it's going to put a lot of stress on the front left tyre. It's going to take an absolute battering. As I said, Red Bull front limited in Brazil. How are they going to adapt? That's going to be very interesting. If they can solve that problem, it might give them just enough to stay ahead on strategy. But then, that being said, it's going to be a high downforce circuit, so they might be able to look after the tyres slightly better. But that may also help Mercedes because, yes, it's high downforce, and Mercedes ran a high downforce setup in Brazil. Christian Horner quoted as saying it was a Monaco rear wing, which, if that's true, and then Red Bull are having to run, maybe Red Bull will have to run a smaller rear wing to compensate down the straight, which would leave them potentially wearing the tyres through the middle sector a little bit more and a little bit unstable, or they want to protect the tyres but they're going to be slower down the straight. Mercedes could be able to snooker Red Bull in the way that they have done so many years previously when they had just a simply faster package. It's going to be incredibly interesting how it's going to unfold. We'll just have to wait and see, but Mercedes could be extremely potent down the front straight during the race, especially with DRS and the power of that fresh power unit. So who is it going to be? We'll come to that a little bit later on when I make my predictions. McLaren, they need to strike back, and it's been a bit of a rotten run for the Papaya team based in Woking recently. They've been outscored 71-22 in the last 4 rounds by their rivals Ferrari. Of course, there's been some bad luck before the McLaren team, but Ferrari have also delivered brilliantly. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz have been fantastic in the last few races, pretty much 5th and 6th or around there at all times. Leclerc finished, I think, 4th in Turkey, and he ran 3rd most of that race. So it was an excellent drive from him, and both are in really good form. Lando and Daniel have kind of all gone a bit pear-shaped since Russia. Had Lando won that race, it wouldn't have changed it would have given them a whole load of points, but I don't think it would have changed too much because Ferrari would still have been strong at the following races. But they really hurt him from being outscored in Qatar, and Ferrari just sort of keeping themselves ahead, and they're ticking over the points, the Scuderia. So how this weekend's going to look, it could be one for McLaren, to be honest, because they've had a very slippery car down the straights all year, and very similar to Mercedes. They've got that power unit advantage, especially over Ferrari. The Ferrari power unit has improved, but it's not quite on a level with the Mercedes PU at the moment. McLaren need to make best use of that, and they need to strike back, and they need to get some big points. They need to get, ideally would be a podium, but I don't see them collecting a podium. They need to be best of the rest, maybe even getting ahead of Checo Perez for a P4 or something. But they desperately need to outscore Ferrari with both cars, and that is the crucial thing. They can't just have Lando finishing ahead of the 2 Ferraris. They need to have both cars ahead of the Ferraris. And yep, there's lots of talk about the battle at the front for the World Championship, but there's an equally ferocious battle for 5th place. Alpine and AlphaTauri are locked level on 112 points, and it's only Alpine's win in Hungary with Esteban Ocon that keeps them ahead. But to be honest, Pierre Gasly's been carrying that AlphaTauri team into this fight. He's been performing at an incredibly high standard. It's just an insane level of performance from Pierre. He is at one with that car. It would be brilliant to see him in a top running car and see if he's learned from those mistakes that he clearly made at Red Bull. But he's just driving so well, and perhaps AlphaTauri could be the team that give him the car. Who knows? Alpine, on the other hand, have been very up and down. Sometimes their drivers are failing to make it out Q1, and you look at Pierre's qualifying record for much of this season. He's been basically living in 5th or 6th on the grid. Okay, Yuki Tsunoda is not really much of a factor in this fight, but he's scooping up a couple of points here and there, which all goes a long way. Alpine did have very good straight line speed in Brazil, so maybe they can take advantage of that again, but I think the AlphaTauri is just a much more better balanced car. They've got Pierre Gasly, who's just having the time of his life at the moment in that machine. And I think for that reason it's going to be a race where AlphaTauri take 5th place as their own for now. So 3 races to go. The championship is separated by 14 points at the top. Let's head in to some predictions, and let's start with qualifying and pole position. I'm going to hand pole position, and he's going to keep it this time. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton at the front of the grid. I just think coming off the back of that weekend in Brazil, he's going to be riding the crest of a wave. Momentum is a massive word in any sport, and as much so in Formula 1. Lewis is going to come in revved up. He's going to want to make sure that he gets that championship lead down to single figures for Max Verstappen. And it's kind of must win for Lewis, because if he doesn't win and Max goes on to win, Max knows all he has to do for the rest of the season is follow Lewis home. And Lewis ended up in that position in 2016, and Rosberg pipped him to the title in Abu Dhabi, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to go through that all over again, even though he tried his best to upset his Mercedes teammate on the day. I can't see Max falling foul of that in Abu Dhabi. Second on the grid will be Max Verstappen. I mean, you can't separate these two. Even if you put one at the front and one at the back, they just end up next to each other on the racetrack at some point. So why not have them start at the front together? That will be fun, won't it? Behind Max will be Valtteri Bottas. He's been fantastic recently, hasn't he? His race in Brazil wasn't great, but in the end he did a job for the team, and he picked up 3rd place on that day, beating Checo Perez, which was very important for the Constructors' Championship, which also shouldn't be forgotten in this. You know, as much as there's a brilliant drivers' title fight, there is a ferocious battle for the Constructors' Championship. So this could be a weekend for Mercedes to extend their lead in the Constructors' battle just that little bit further. Let's move to race day, because of course it's not a sprint weekend. Lewis Hamilton's going to get the win. It's going to be very boring. It's going to be a Ham-Verbot podium. I don't see anybody else getting ahead of those 3. Maybe Checo Perez if the Red Bull is on song like it was in Mexico, but I'm not convinced that that Red Bull have that sort of Mexico pace around Qatar. I mean, we could be completely wrong and we turn up and Haas are fastest, but I mean, even that is a stretch. It's maybe not quite that dramatic. So Hamilton to win the race ahead of Verstappen and Bottas. The fastest lap point is going to be critical. You know, if Mercedes are winning the race with Lewis, do they risk losing that 3rd place with Bottas and handing a few extra points to Red Bull and therefore Perez, but snatching the fastest lap to make sure Verstappen can't get it? Who knows? It's all going to play out very interestingly. The scrap for a single point. Who thought that the fastest lap would become so important when they brought that rule in? I think back in 2019, I believe it came in. So it may all come down to a solitary point, and we've seen championships decided by that and less in the past. And to finish off, I'm going to give you my driver or team to watch, and it's going to be Lando Norris of McLaren. Just Lando, because he's had a bit of a rough run recently after a stunning first 2/3 of the season. It was just incredible. He was up in 3rd in the championship for much of the year, and had Verstappen and Hamilton continued to crash into each other after the summer break and Lando been capitalising, there's every chance he could have been an outside bet for the title, but it hasn't panned out that way. McLaren, if they're on song in Qatar, I'm looking for Lando to bounce back from a pretty tricky race in Brazil where he picked up that puncture at the start. It kind of all fell apart from there. But Lando needs a good weekend. He needs to lead that McLaren team to a strong result, as I've already said, and he needs to bounce back personally as well for, you know, the sake of his home championship. Because if he finishes behind Charles Leclerc, that would be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow for Lando, I think. So yeah, they are my predictions. Lewis Hamilton for a pole position and victory double this weekend in Qatar. So that is my prediction over. Now, if you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a like, and comment below who you think is going to win the race. And up above, you can see my Twitter handle. check me out on there, give me a follow, and it's always great to discuss Formula 1 action with the Twitter sphere. That'll do for today. I will see you when the 5 red lights go out after the Qatar Grand Prix. For now though, my name's Aaron, this has been the 5 red lights, and I will see you then. For now, it is goodbye.